This is Shining a Light Podcasts. In this series, The Last 27 Years, we go through the last 27 years in the life of one class of 95 City Girls high school student, and this episode is Michelle Zeltzer.
But then how long are you gonna make each podcast different?
Yeah, basically because I decided to let people be themselves. Do you know what I mean? Some people,
because I could wrap it up in 4 minutes if you told me, like it's kind of like how long do you have?
Ever.
No, I'm sure not, but I was just kind of like, when you think about your life and then you're like, yeah, so I did that. I went to uni, I traveled, then I got married, had kids, and then I'm working, and that's where I am now. Like,
and that's where I am now. So there you go, everybody. Like, fuck that.
How's your mum doing, by the way? How's your mum doing, by the way?
Oh, look, it's pretty bad. Like, it's pretty bad. Like, 8 weeks ago, she was fully functional. She was like a court expert. She was driving everywhere. She was top of her field. She was like churning out reports. She was self-sufficient, age 70, still functioning.
Yeah.
Now she can't even take a bloody shower.
Oh my God. And what's caused it?
They think dementia, they think like all the, like, oh God, like she fell down a flight of stairs. She cracked her head open on tiles.
Oh.
She had diabetic ketoacidosis. She had the treatment for that. She had a punctured pulmonary artery bleeding into her lungs. She had sepsis. She had like she should be dead, So she's come out of it with like dementia symptoms that look permanent at the moment. And I'm meeting with the doctors, and we're doing everything we can, but it's looking like nursing home at this point. And it's
does she
emotional.
know? Does she understand or not really?
No, got no idea. She thinks she's going home. She thinks but she can't remember what she did for work. So it's like,
okay, yeah. Oh my God, okay.
It's just
that is so difficult for you. I'm so sorry, because my mum's like same age, and she's falls a couple of times, and she had a bad fall outside my apartment about a year and a half ago, and that was
worrying.
but she was fine. Like, she walked out the door and then came back 2 minutes later, and I thought, oh, she's forgotten her phone. And literally she walked in my front door, looked like someone had taken a pole and beat her face up. She had cracked down her face. She had blood everywhere, and I couldn't even cope with all that. Had Hatsola, the ambulance. It was COVID. They're asking everyone vaccinated. I mean, I don't even remember if the vaccinations had come in then. And it was and then they took her away, and then she started fainting at home before the ambulance arrived. So I was still crying, and she's going to die. I thought she was literally going to die in front of my kids on my couch. Yeah. But so my mum's same age as yours, and that just made me realize that things can just change in a split second.
It's that whole curve of life, isn't it? It's like the kids are so vulnerable. Like, you're always worrying about your kids falling over, and especially when they're 2. I remember putting a crash helmet on my 2-year-old because she was just constantly headbutting things, and I was like, would you stop doing it? You're going to cause yourself brain damage, And and then it's this other end of life where they just I guess it's poignant in a way to be doing this now, because in 27 years we're going to be in our 70s.
That's crazy. And do you know that we've got a business and a house in Goulburn, and every time I drive past Picton, I think of you. Didn't you come from Picton?
I'm not in Picton anymore.
No, but where didn't you drive? Didn't you come to school from Picton?
And actually further than Picton. I had to get up at 5 a.m. to get the goddamn bus to Picton to get the train.
Every time I see the sign for Picton, I think of you, and I say to my husband, you remember that? He goes, yes, your friend from high school. She came every day.
Can you shut up about it?
I said, can you believe it? I said, it's just insane how people travel to come to this school.
It was because I was there for the first year, and then my parents moved. We lived in Coogee, when I got into City Girls, and then my parents moved to the back of freaking nowhere, which had nothing to do with me. And I just dug my heels in and just said, I'm not giving up my school.
That is just, I don't know how you did that.
Fuck you. You're not taking everything from me. So
I've got a new puppy who is playing with a toy behind me.
It's good. He's been quiet, or she's been quiet.
Kind of. He's looking at me is it lunchtime? and now he's
Maybe
climbing
it
on
is.
me. No, I'm hoping he'll just settle down in a minute. And my
I
other
recorded
dog
with
is...
Paulina the other week, and her dog just like would not shut up through the whole.
Oh no, yeah.
She's like, I think we need to sedate this dog. Oh,
That's Dusty. He's come from Murrum Bateman.
I love dogs. I wanted to be a vet, but I'm allergic to dogs.
That's my... Hello, I've done a little timeline for myself, and the vet is one of my stories.
Yeah, it was one of my things.
Oh my Lord.
So anyway, oh my God. But yeah, so the first question I was starting with, I don't really have questions anymore. I'm trying to like just pay attention to the other person and ask questions that come to me as you tell your story, because I had these set questions, because you know how some people like Sydney Girls High School, right? So like some people are like giving this questions, like I need the questions ahead of time, like so I can prepare and, and so like I smashed together all these questions and sent them to
I
people.
know. I remember you said there'll be questions. So I was like, where's my question?
Yeah, I know. And then it didn't work. It was so jarring. And it was just like, you know, have we gotten to this question? And I wasn't listening. I wasn't paying attention. I was just like checking off the checklist. And then people were worrying, like, have I answered every question? And I thought, oh, this is stupid. Like, this is just so
No, I like
stupid.
this style. Less work for you as well. And I've done a few big speeches at work lately, and like they've been fully scripted, and then I've just reflected that, you know, I don't speak as well when I'm fully scripted.
Yeah, because
and
half your brain's dedicated.
Like my quirky and spontaneous bits just are gone. It's literally reading the script.
Yeah.
So I literally just did a couple of notes like half an hour ago with the timeline, and I had all these great ideas over the weekend, and I was like, you know what, whatever comes to me when I'm speaking is what I'm going to talk about.
It's so much better that way.
But I don't think I'm going to talk for an hour and a half. Definitely.
Oh
not.
yeah,
I'm
no, that
thinking
was
more like
one.
the half an hour
And look,
max.
I just like that was Natasha White, who I don't know if you remember, but like
blonde hair.
White wasn't her first name. But like she was just to me, like in high school, she was tanned and she was blonde and she was just like so calm and just so amazing. So like I just had no problem listening to her for an hour and a half. Like just knock me out. Like just tell me like how your life was just so different to mine. Just you know, hit me.
So where will people be able to access the podcast from?
Actually tomorrow is the launch.
Oh my God, that is so exciting.
I know. So Podbean, Spotify and SoundCloud. So someone's got access to any of those. Like someone, please God, like got to have access.
And if it's like really successful, Apple will buy it, or how does that work?
And no, they're all there's no charge. So just
or can you load it to Apple Podcasts? Or
I'm not an Apple person. I'm an Android person. So I've done but I think maybe with Podbean you can add it to Apple. So I'll definitely give that a go tonight and try and add it to Apple. And I'm surprised I'm functioning so well. I have like loaded up with like 4 Codrils, Sudafed nose spray.
You sound good, and you look
I was just
good.
like, you know, you've got to like, you just can't cancel on Michelle. Like she has a busy schedule.
Oh God, no. I was like the amount of people who were like, I'll just give you a call at about 12:30. Oh, let's just catch up at 1. I'm like, no, I've just blocked out my Teams. I've put my out of office on literally for an hour and a half or whatever you blocked out. It is like, Fridays is probably the better day. And then that stupid workshop got put in, just Friday's meeting free Friday. And then, but I was like, oh, if you cancel today, I would be fine. But you know what? Like, I just want to get it done because I was like then I overthink it and then I'll start scripting and it's like, you know, one of those things.
Preeti twice and I feel like an asshole.
Oh no, you're so good though. Scheduling, prioritize. I'm very impressed.
We will make this work. So the first question I was opening with, because was just going to be, you did did you do HSC in 95 with everybody else?
I did.
Because a few people didn't. And the people, I know, right?
Oh, what? What do you mean?
Right?
Did they leave?
The people who did it with everybody is like, who wasn't there? You know, I was like, Grace Kim left, like I left, like, and there were quite a few.
Yeah, I
who
don't
just-
remember you leaving. When did
I had
you
a
leave?
meltdown end of 94 and just like full on right before the preliminaries just said,
Oh.
I don't even know. I just like, I've had enough. Like, I can't take this one more day. And just like, what do I need to do to sign myself out of this school right this minute? I
my
just can't take
God.
it any longer. And it just had a full on meltdown. And I think it was partly the 5-hour round trip, you know, like I'd
Oh
been
God,
doing
yeah,
it for years,
yeah.
you know, and I just had enough. So, and then I went to a worse school because I went to a mixed, like, co-ed school. And
Oh God,
I wasn't
after
used to boys, and I wasn't used to rude boys, and I wasn't used to shutting up in the face of rude boys, you know.
actually,
So made a lot of
boys.
enemies pretty quickly by
Was that a local
mouthing
Picton high
back
school?
at these idiots, you know,
Oh,
and then
God.
like copped a lot of abuse and bullying from boys, which I just wasn't used to. And anyway, not my podcast. So okay,
All right.
So you were
So
there in
y-
90. You were there in
yes,
95.
yeah.
And
So I was there in 95, and I did all the way through from year 7 to the end of year 12.
And did you do the plan of uni, which was, you know, our predestined plan, you know?
I did, yeah. So should I'll kick off. Should I kick off my journey? I
Yeah,
guess.
hit me. Where'd you go in 96?
So I thought I'd take a little step back. I don't know if others have, but I think it's interesting because I reflected on the years in high school, and there were many occasions where the principal said to my father, she really is wasting a space at this, very special school. And, I was like, oh no, my dad would say, you're off to Mariah College, which funnily enough is where my children are. And I'd say, no, not Mariah, not Mariah.
Anyway,
I'll be good. I'll be good. And then I'd be good for a bit. And then, and I think, look, there was so much pressure going to a selective academic school. Like, it is one of the best schools in the country, but that came with so much pressure. And, I always reflect of how many times they'd say, don't worry if you're at the bottom, you're still at the top at another school. But it's really hard spending those important years of your life not being at the top or even in the middle and being at the bottom and still feeling good. And I probably didn't feel good.
And remember how they gave us our reports with our actual mark and then our scaled mark? Do you remember that?
I don't. I've blocked out so many things, I think.
I used to change my my D's to B's. Like, so obviously now, but at the time I thought I was getting away with it.
I think I changed a few now that you're talking about that as well. That rings a bell.
I didn't do that bad.
So anyway, so I went through, and then, you know what? Something clicked in year 12, and I had this epiphany, and it was, what are you going to do with your life? You're going to be a loser and do nothing, and you really have an opportunity to try and do the best you can. So I pretty much locked myself in my room for about a year, ate, put on lots of weight, and just studied my absolute
Relate
butt
to
off.
that one, honey. Weight battle my whole life.
And then I actually did really well. And I remember the day of the results, I think, or the next day. I think it was the day of the results. I came back to the school, and Miss Young, I mean, she is a classic, that teacher. I just love her. She was like, oh, lady, you do very well. Like, oh my God, how did you pull that? And it's just people who were always so far ahead of me who I ended up doing better. So the moral of that story, I think, for others is, don't give up hope, and you don't have to be the smartest and the best or the richest, but hard work, perseverance, and you can kick some good goals.
And the amount we underestimate ourselves and tell ourselves
100%. The sabotage voice. My puppy is literally biting my fingers. Oh my God.
It's a quiet puppy. It's a
he is,
puppy.
but he's biting my so I did really well. And I also wanted to do vet science, which
Yep.
funnily enough, you mentioned that earlier. I
Yeah.
always loved animals, and I always reflect that I still love animals. I've got 2 dogs at the moment.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the cliffs at Bondi Beach, and I've spoken to a few people, and they said, "Look, it's basically a science degree. It's a science degree."
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had some pretty sub-average teachers, science teachers in high
Yeah.
school. So my experience with science wasn't great. And it's funny that, the course that your life takes and how things happen can very much be influenced by the teachers you had and the experiences you had. So I decided that I didn't want to do a degree that I was going to need tutoring in every single day, and just do something that I could just do and have a normal life and work and be social and
Yeah.
all of those things. So I decided to do commerce law.
Yep.
So off I went to uni, went to UNSW and did commerce law.
Yep.
I majored in accounting. I don't know why. I hate anything to do with accounting. I
Well,
still
I
don't
have to say,
understand.
when I pay my accountant, I sometimes wonder why I didn't do accounting.
I still don't know how many people understand what is a debit and what is a credit. So I think because my sister did accounting, it was always like, oh, well, big sister's doing that, so I probably should just do that too. So I did that. I had a quite a good few years at uni, 5 years, and yeah, I think I made some really good friends. Yeah, the puppy is decided. He's been so
He
good,
wants to
and
be a
he's
part of
just
the
decided. No,
podcast.
he's like, I want my
It's
lunch,
like,
mum. I
my
want my
voice counts
lunch.
too.
So I had really good uni years. I made some good friends. As I said, I've kept in contact with some of them. Life takes you through different places where you are at different stages. So that was all good. And then I finished, but it was funny. You mentioned something before we started recording around the boys, and I still remember going into class and looking at these boys in the class and completely freaking out. And being in a
Yeah.
single sex school for so many years has such an impact that
Yeah.
I was so awkward around boys. So I've loved that my older girls have gone to a co-ed school, and that for them talking to boys is very normal.
And I don't know if you had the same experience I had, but I just if I would hear a boy say something stupid, you know what I mean? Like, there was no part of me that didn't feel the need to point it out. You know what I
I think I
mean?
was just too scared to even talk to them or say anything. So I
Like
probably just
racism, for example. I remember encountering boys who were using the word nip. I'd never even heard that word before, and then saying things like, "Oh, we're not talking about you," to this particular girl. And I remember going, actually, that's exactly who you're talking about. Like, you're not talking about anyone else in the room but like her, so maybe if you don't want to talk about her, maybe you shouldn't use the word. Oh, did I cop it?
Oh, I think you're braver than
I
me.
think I was a loudmouth. That's what it was.
So off I went to uni, and I met my first husband at uni. And the funny thing is, I knew him from when we were children, and because I'd had every
Wow.
type of boyfriend in high school that my parents didn't approve of, I think when I met him, my first thought was, my parents will be so happy, And as a child of migrant parents, I don't know if others have spoken about this a lot, but you get told your whole life, everything I've done is for you, the sacrifices we made. We arrived with one suitcase and no money, we had no food, and you need to succeed and you need to achieve great things because we
More
put
pressure.
everything, so much pressure. So I feel like I started ticking boxes to just get their approval after disappointing them for so many years. Like, I think getting my HSC mark was the first real time they were probably really happy with me in a long time. And then, as I said, I met my first husband, and he's a lovely guy and we're still really good friends, but he definitely wasn't the right person for me to be my kind of soulmate and lifelong partner. So so that kind of so I met him, and then after I finished uni, I did some amazing travel, which often reflect and go, thank God I did, because often once you start work and if you get married or if you have children,
Yeah.
the years just get away, and then you've got to
Yeah.
wait
It
30
rolls.
years to go and do that again. So I was very lucky that I went and did South America for 3 months and Europe for
Not
3
the
months.
UK. You deviated from the plan.
No, I
there.
did. I did both. I did
UK,
I did Europe and UK. I went. So I can't even remember where I went. I went to like so many different countries, but I did some really cool stuff in South America, like walk the Inca Trail, which I'm not sure you can even do now,
Yeah.
and the Machu Picchu, the Galapagos Islands, and oh my God, my friend Karen, who I traveled with, like she's so worldly traveled and so adventurous that I'm so glad I paired up with her for this trip. It was completely crazy. We met some wild characters on the way, and if my children were to have that kind of trip, I would die.
Be
So thank
terrified.
God. Yeah, no, I'd be like, I've always said the day my kids say I'm going to South America, I'm be like, no way over my dead. But you live to tell the story. And then
Yeah.
I met up with my ex-husband, who was working in Vienna at the time, and he was finishing up a post for Arthur Anderson, who was at the time his employer. And we went and did, Spain and England and Scotland and Italy and
Beautiful.
France, and we had a really great 3 months traveling. So I'm really glad that I did.
Yeah.
And then I came back and had a few months before I started my first gig as a proper adult, as a junior graduate lawyer at who was then called Blake Dawson Waldron.
Yeah, my brother's a lawyer, so I have some insight.
Yeah, I mean that's another podcast in itself. But
yeah, just the learning curve and the starting from the very bottom and the.
So so I worked at Blake Dawson Waldron, and it's interesting because at the time I really polished up my interview skills. So I had some really good job offers, and it's one of those life lessons where I took that job because I knew someone. So I'm
Yep.
always telling people now, don't just take a job because you know someone. Like really do your due diligence, do your research, because that one person is very small in a large organization.
Yeah.
So I spent a couple of years there, and the funny thing is I got married. I was just documenting some dates because God, I can't remember everything, is a blur. So I got married in December of 2002, which is when I got admitted as a practicing solicitor.
Which is so young, like in hindsight.
It is. And then got married all around the same time, started work, got married. And then it's funny. So my sister's about 5 years older than me, and she took about 5 years to get pregnant. So I remember hearing about her struggles. And so when I got married, I said to my husband at the time, we can't put a time frame on when we are going to have children. It's in God's hand. So when he wants us to have children, he will let us have children. Anyway, 2 months after we got married, I sort of was like, I don't feel so good. My boobies are a bit swollen and I feel a bit nauseous. And I remember telling his parents, and they're like, you can't, that's impossible. And I'm like, I don't think so. Pretty sure I am. So there I was as a 25-year-old, pregnant with my beautiful daughter, Jessica, who's turning 19 in November.
Yeah.
So, I got the joys of working pregnant as a 25-year-old in a tough environment, and then having having my daughter. And then, in those days, and I can't even believe there'll be a few in those days, because really, I think the benefit of working for the last 20 years in corporate is there's been some really good changes. But in those days, there wasn't maternity pay by private practices. So I had to come back to work pretty quickly, I think within 3 months. And in fact, I even remember, again, appropriate workplace behaviour, times have really changed. But I remember telling the male partners that I worked for, oh, by the way, just to let you know, I'm pregnant. And they were like, oh, we can tell your breasts have gone bigger. And oh my God, there's a few things that I always remember, and they're
Thank
the
you
ones that
so
I go,
much for your observation. Yeah.
times have really changed, because that would not fly anymore.
No.
So yeah, I came back, and then, working in a private law firm, there's a lot of pressure on billable hours, and I was working part-time, and I was getting all the crappy work, and it was all crappy. So I said, this is not for me. And I remember my daughter was about 10 months at the time, and she was in a bathtub, and I was negotiating with the then head of compliance for Macquarie Bank, and she was completely turned to prune. Like, she was shriveled in the bath for like an hour, and I was like fighting over, $5,000, which for me was huge money, and I was like, I'm gonna fight. And every time she'd go, I'd kind of put my hand over her mouth and go, shh, 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 shh. And there I did negotiate this job, and off I went to work at Macquarie Bank, where I had an incredible career, 13 years.
I
And
almost worked there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What
I
were
made it
you
to the
gonna do
third
then?
interview, and
Almost
somebody
there.
wrecked it for me. I won't, who will remain nameless. Yeah, so it wasn't meant to be, but yeah.
Oh, you know what? I always say everything happens for a reason, and
100%.
different path and different direction, and it's all good. Oh, my fingers. Okay, back on track. So yes, I went to Macquarie Bank, and look, I had an incredible career there. I worked, I worked ridiculously long hours. I think I definitely.
That was the
You,
culture.
you're married to the job, so
Yeah.
job was first, Macquarie was first, and family and children were second. And obviously, I think that's something I've learnt to reprioritize with the benefit of 20 years experience. But during my time there, I saw great things. I worked with amazingly bright, innovative, inspiring people. I saw, all the different types of cultures that exist, but they hire really smart people, which again, it was interesting because coming from Sydney High, where you go, this is not the norm. It's funny when you leave Macquarie and you go to another place and you realize not everyone is an overachiever. And they do tend to hire the same kind of person because they do the
selected for that.
psychometric
They wanted,
assessment. So they get a type of person who is going to commit to them and work hard and all those things. But in the time I got to travel, I went to India and Hong Kong and Singapore, and it was a little bit glamorous. I really enjoyed it. It was a good reward for the hard work. And I think, though, during that time, the demise of the marriage, because it just wasn't a priority for me. And I sometimes think it was a combination of not the right fit, with just too young, hadn't really lived life yet, having the baby really early into the marriage, and then the intense work environment. The marriage was probably never going to survive. So the odds were not in our favor. So I had my, as I said, I had Jessica, and then who was sort of there through the Macquarie days, and then I had Charlie, who's my second daughter, in 2007, which was the GFC, and
about to hit.
the only thing I remember there, it was so traumatizing. People were being made redundant every 5 minutes, and there was some awkward things, unfortunately, they did in the beginning, which they learnt from. But they'd call 100 people into a meeting room and say, go back to your desk and don't
Terrifying.
leave your desk, and if you'll get a call and you'll need to
Oh,
go and take your things. And that was just so traumatic. And I still remember I started to have Holocaust dreams at that time,
wow.
which is also really interesting because, yes, I am Jewish. And my sister, who had a friend once, came into a house because my sister thought at the house she was living in there were definitely ghosts and spirits, and this lady was all into that. Me, whatever you give that right name. And she did a bit of work with my sister, and I remember she said, "You and your sister have been connected in a previous life. So you could have been, my sister may have been my mother and I was her daughter." And she
Wow.
basically sort of implied that we likely went through the Holocaust together and
Wow.
died, but we were connected in a previous life, which is quite amazing. But what was interesting is when all these redundancies were happening, I must have been so traumatized that I started to have dreams that the CEO was calling us and we had to go on a bus and we were basically taken out to fields and shot. And I just thought,
Terrifying.
God, that is crazy that I'm even thinking of
Yeah,
that.
and it's partly like makes you feel like you're insane, but at the same time it's happening and
Oh, it was
yeah,
really intense because you work with colleagues, you sit next to them, you spend more time with your colleagues than your own partner,
family.
family,
Yeah.
children. And it's like they're there 1 minute and gone the next. So it was pretty tough times, but I made it through all the redundancies. So um, which
Woohoo.
meant I had to do the job of 3 or 4 or 5 people sometimes.
Oh,
So
okay.
so they'd
Not so
make all
good.
these people redundant, but they never quite formally
Replace
said
them.
who did that, who then was going to suddenly pick up 3 people's job.
Yeah. Now you got
Um,
5 hats on.
yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so that was pretty tough times, and my daughter was born through that. Yeah. So Charlie came along, and I had the perfect pregnancy with both kids, and it was all good. And then Charlie was born with one kidney, so that was my first experience with, having a child with a medical condition. So
Yeah.
the first year was, a lot of tests, a lot of procedures, a lot of medication, and then surgery to repair all what the doctors called the plumbing. So I think I
Yeah.
learned a lot through that. I grew up a lot. I wasn't very exposed to medicine or like sickness or just not perfection, I guess I call it, in that,
Yeah.
things in my family kind of all ran smooth. No one's divorced. Everyone sort of looks happy whether they are or not. Everyone's healthy whether they are or not.
Yeah.
And there was my daughter, and so that was, I think, for me, yeah, a good exposure to there are people out there who do it really tough. I mean, I still remember meeting a woman in the urologist's surgery, and the child was barely alive, and she actually said to me, I wish my child hadn't been born because he's not living. And yet she couldn't do anything except take him from doctor to medical
Just that
procedure. And
powerlessness.
he was on a ventilator. He couldn't move. He was 2.5 or 3. He looked about 6 months old. And anyway, so I think that for me was a really good eye opener into life isn't perfect, and there are a lot of people out there doing it tough.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Charlie is, she's, I don't know, she's the middle child. Middle children come with a lot of. You're not a middle
She'll be
child,
in
are you?
therapy
You're
one day.
laughing. Oh, she's. It's already one day's come, but it's you
Mm.
know, the product of a troubled marriage and then a child in the mix. And anyway, so that Charlie keeps us on our toes, should I say? I know she'll listen to this, so I've got to be
Yep.
careful what I say. But Charlie came along, and there I was with 2 children, and I think I'll, skipping to probably bigger, next big milestone is probably separation.
Yeah.
And I can talk about this. As I said, my ex-husband and I are really good friends, and the reality is we just were not suited for each other. But I think the best thing we did for each other is to let us go And even though at the time my parents are like, you can't do this. This is so embarrassing. What will people think? You think marriages are perfect. You've just got to work through it. You've got children. You've got property.
Expectations.
You'll be homeless. You'll be like, what will happen to you? Well, can I
Stop
just
projecting,
say
Mum
that
and Dad.
I must say that I've really thrived since that. Because as I said, I think the greatest gift we gave each other was letting ourselves go. And
Yeah.
we both found new partners and both
Yeah.
found love and happiness. And my ex-husband
beautiful.
has, got remarried. He's got a beautiful wife who I'm really friendly with, and her and I get along really well.
That's really cool.
And
Like for you
really
guys,
well.
probably for him, not so much all the time.
No, we hang out like all the time. And then they've had a little daughter, Madeline. So Maddie, who's almost the same age as my son. So I'll get to him. And so, yeah, so I think that was the lowest point in that. I think I still remember we met in the city, and he said, like, we can't do this anymore. And I think he'd been getting therapy and building up the courage. And it was so bad. And he said, we can't do this. We've got to separate. And like, I remember I came back to work and just cancelled all my meetings and locked myself in the disabled bathroom and cried the whole day. And then it took me about 3 months to tell my parents. So he told his parents straight away. And I said, I need time. And that was probably a good reflection of,
if
you know,
disabled bathrooms could speak. Like the amount of time,
Yeah.
like, I know I've spent.
Oh God,
and everyone I know has spent, like, thank goodness there's no cameras in there.
Oh my Lord, yeah, exactly. Thank goodness for those big bathrooms where you can. Oh God, there's good memories in those bathrooms actually as well. Not at work, but in other ones. So I think it was the lowest point. But yet that was the beginning of, I feel like my next life. And I don't want to say that I think those years from when I started working and got married early and had my first daughter, they weren't great. I don't want to say that because that's not fair to everyone. But if I look at my last 7 or 8 years, I feel extremely privileged and blessed that the next almost 40 years are probably going to be my best because I'm just, more financially stable. I'm so much more, confident. Like I don't give a shit. I don't care about pleasing people. And,
something I love about the 40s, I think, I don't know if it's like just you know what I mean?
100%.
I don't care.
We need to be in our 40s earlier and then kind of go away and come back.
All this, like all the insecurity of the 20s and the fear and then what are other people going to think of me and how am I presenting? And God, I remember going to the reunion, like the one we had when we were like 31 and just all my fear was like, how am I presenting and what are people thinking of me? And, and like, I just like, I love that that's gone. Like just love it's gone.
That was the reunion at the pub in Paddington?
Yes, in like Surrey Hills.
My God. Okay, so I mean, just diverting, but my partner Jason and I, like, we still laugh about that because we'd only just got together, and I pulled out this really cute brown dress from my cupboard, and I said, "Do you think I can wear this? It's a little bit revealing." And he said, "Oh, very slightly. You'll be fine." And then obviously, as the night progresses and you eat more and you drink more and things move around, and then bits of revealing get more revealing. And then many times we come back and he says, probably shouldn't have worn that dress. but then, I can just laugh about it because I said, I told you. Every time the Facebook feed comes up and there's me in the dress and I go to him, remember, I told you. He goes, it was probably a bit too revealing. You looked great. You were rocking it that night. Who cares? But anyway, so I remember that reunion as well. Actually, I was dreading that, but it was a great night.
Yeah.
When is our next reunion? I'm very excited.
3 years because we're 17 and like it's going to be the 20 year. Is that right?
So is it 30?
No, 30 years. Oh my gosh.
No.
It's going to be the 30
30
year reunion in 3 years.
No, that is crazy. Because
It
I
is,
look at
isn't it?
people like you, I look at people on Facebook and I'm like, they look the same as in high school, like a couple of extra wrinkles, but everyone looks like
Get
very
skin
the same.
needling. I get age spots removed. Just, and then
Oh,
I meet up with my ex last night, and this happens.
oh my
So obviously
goodness.
not my ex, is it?
One of the exes.
Yeah, like probably
Ex, the
Just I'll
pre
probably edit it out,
the
but
old
probably the
ex.
biggest love of my life, and
Oh,
yeah. So obviously not completely over. And he's
well,
been really kind to me recently with everything that's been going on with my mom, and like
oh
bringing me
yeah.
food and like coming to check if I'm okay. Like
Well, I want to hear the end of this story.
so we'll watch that space for another few
Watch
years.
that space. Um, so yeah, I was saying that the beginning of the end was the lowest point, but really, I think that just changed the whole course of my life.
Yeah,
Being in a marriage where that person wasn't my person, wasn't my go-to, wasn't my best friend, wasn't someone who you know encouraged me to achieve greatness.
yeah,
I still remember saying to my ex-husband before a performance appraisal, I think I'm going to ask for some more money. And there's only a few things I really clearly remember. I keep saying I remember, but these are the things in that I'm
that
in
stand
this
out.
podcast
Yeah,
that stand out. And I still remember he said, "You should just be happy. You've got a job still. It's really tough out there." And
no,
if I
you want your
compare to my
biggest
current
fan.
partner, oh, it's like anyway. I'll get to my beautiful Jason, but he yeah, I don't know, just not the female encouragement. I think it's, there are some men who really thrive with a strong woman, and there are others who don't. So
Yeah,
I think that's just, women need to, or other women, whatever it is, but whoever you want to be with, they need to encourage you to reach your potential and be
yeah.
your own, whatever your greatness is. They
And
should
just
be
as a
encouraging
Yeah,
you
just
to
as a
to
general
do that.
concept. Yeah, you need your best friend. You need that person you can turn to when you really need somebody. You need
Pick
somebody
you
you
up
can
when you're down,
bring
lift
any
you
messy emotion to and they can handle it, and you need like that strength, and that needs to be mutual, and you need
100%.
heaps and heaps of stuff. So it took me to my 40s to realize that I never
Yeah, well,
had
like you
anyone
said,
like that in my life. So
mm,
yeah, you need that stuff. Everyone does, whatever that
yeah,
looks like for them, but it's a general concept. And for my kids, like when I look at my kids, I think, oh God, I hope you find that person. Like I'd hate to see one of my children in a relationship where they weren't getting all the things they need.
well, you need to hone it into them. You need to keep telling them these things.
Yeah, you are worth, and all the like. It comes from a lack of self-love and a lack of
Mm,
feeling worthy, and I'm only learning. God, I love the 40s, but I'm only learning
I
like
know
where
our
it
parents
stems
didn't know
from.
how,
Like
a lot of
now,
our parents
I used to
didn't
think I
know.
had to do all these things to be good enough for somebody, or that I needed to change this about myself, or I wasn't good enough, and just and I didn't even know. Like I didn't even know that it was coming from that stuff. Like I just believed it so deeply it wasn't even coming up.
I think a lot of, a lot of it is just the generations, like our parents, in their 70s, whatever, they didn't know how to parent best because their parents didn't know. Like, they didn't talk
Yeah.
about things. They didn't tell us. You know, my mum still says things like, you need to lose weight or Jason will leave you, and
I know.
like not once has she ever said, you are amazing and you're successful and you've done incredible things and he should be lucky to have someone like you.
Yeah.
No, still not. Still not. I'm still waiting for it. It's always the guy is like gonna he that person could leave you if you don't better yourself, make yourself even better. You're never good enough. But again, another problem. So I think we can only just try and hope
And I
we
think
don't
also
do the
what I've
same.
realized is that people treat you how they feel about themselves. So it's like these days I have more compassion, like for my mother now, particularly, but even like 5 years ago, wow, she never felt good enough herself. So she couldn't do any better in parenting me. My mother never got in a swimsuit, for example. she would never sing when other people would sing a song. Like she didn't think she was good enough. So how could she possibly teach that to me? You know?
Well, at least
So
at least you've got the awareness now, and
I
you
love,
can
a
not pass
little,
that on to your daughter,
yeah. So
and your
I
son,
need to work on me. I need to feel worthy, or she will pick up how I feel about myself, and it won't matter what I say. It'll just pass on. You know?
I know we are who we are from,
Yeah, we're so
who raised
imperfect.
us, but
We're so
so many
imperfect.
of them are so messed up.
So okay to be
we're all
imperfect.
messed up.
You know.
Oh, it's complicated. Life is complicated, isn't it?
Anyway, so back, sorry, because we get like, you know what? I had one the messiest podcast you'll listen to is me and Zoe Crane, right? We just were a mess.
You guys were good friends, were you? Were you friends at school?
No, we weren't, but I just loved her at school because I thought she was so funny. Like she was just like that. She was the angriest goth girl, you know.
Yeah.
And I just like she used to just make me laugh my ass off, you know. And I was just talking to her about, like she was saying like, and I was so miserable, and I was like, yeah, but where could we have put you, Zoe, where you wouldn't have been miserable? She was like, yeah, fair call. She's turned into a beautiful woman, like just, and a beautiful parent, and like, and such an understanding mother. Like how beautiful, like to have gone through all that like she went through internally, and whatever, like.
Wow.
So it was beautiful catch up with
her.
We just crapped on about so much stuff. Like it was so, and she goes, good luck editing that into a podcast. And it was like when I was editing it, I was like, oh my God, I'm just going to leave it.
I'm so excited to hear all these people's stories.
Conversation about this and that and whatever.
Oh my God.
Just great.
So back to so as I said, that was a real turning point, and it's led down a great path. So I think the really great thing is so many people I hear who, especially like here in the series talking to me, so many people that go through separation and divorce, and then every now and again someone will come back and say, I heard them say, be like Michelle and Ralph, because look at them. Look at how they did it. They did it respectfully. They've kept contact. They, keep, their children. And so I'm really proud that from my, separation and divorce, we could really lead by example for others to say, it doesn't have to be grim and terrible. And unfortunately, my sister's divorce is like at the extreme opposite of 10 years in family court and just a complete waste of money, time, energy, sucked the life out of my family. My parents, aged 30 years from that, like it's almost killed everyone. And it's for what? My ex-husband and I, we came to an agreement, we signed some papers, we paid the fee, and we moved on. Like it was as basic as that. We put our kids
like how
first.
Beautiful for your kids.
Everything was about not making them messed up later on, because so many kids are messed up because they've gone through a messy divorce. And the parents listening to that bickering and that fighting and that toxic. I mean, I know for myself that if I'm having a fight with someone, it eats me alive. I can't breathe. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I can't think. And for young children who are so vulnerable to be exposed to that for weeks, months, years, like it destroys them. It just destroys them. So
it's one of the 3 types of trauma. Like the main 3 types of trauma is experiencing horrendousness between your parents. Like, there's sexual abuse, physical abuse, and experiencing your parents going through that kind of stuff. Like
terrible.
So I never even knew I suffered from trauma till I went to therapy and learned that. I was like, holy crap. I was never sexually abused. I was never physically abused, but I watched my parents like miserable and hate each other for my whole childhood. And I didn't think that was trauma. I thought that was none of my business, but yeah.
And so that's so common. Like, I think so many people have that same story of growing up with parents who just hate each other. And
I think I
as you said,
avoided
you just,
relationships for so long
yeah.
because of the fear of like that, just like so fearful that I would turn into my parents. Whereas now I've kind of realized I am my parents. So the fear's gone. Like, it happened anyway.
Oh, totally. Like my mom drives me insane, and every other week someone in the home says, Michelle, you're sounding like your mother. I'm like, holy crap, I am. Oh my God, I thought there was another 30 years until that happened. So I just, yeah, so I think we talked about the wiseness and maturity we have in our 40s, and God, you hear that growing up, but you don't appreciate it until you go through it.
It's that head-heart connection. Like, you intellectually understand stuff before you feel it, and you have to grow up to feel it.
Why are humans so slow to develop? It's crazy.
I think we're on a journey. This is my best explanation. And if we were born all knowing and all wisdom, like, what would be the point of life? So, like, we're supposed to slowly learn all this stuff or avoid the crap out of it forever and die knowing nothing. So, they're the choices, I think. That's just my opinion. But anyway.
No, I agree with that.
So tell me about this beautiful new marriage.
Yeah, so funnily enough, I met my wonderful partner Jason online, and another point is that you can meet someone wonderful online and have a wonderful relationship. I think we've been together about 7.5 years. It was I think what's really nice is also growing up in the Jewish community, or the I think especially what happened to the Jewish people through World War II. There is a lot of pressure on marrying in and staying within the community, and that obviously limits the amount of people you have to choose from. So I think what was wonderful is Jason is Catholic, although not very religious or practicing. But I absolutely love the difference of cultures and religions, and that it gave us so much to talk about and learn about from each other. And in fact, we went to Israel for my sister-in-law's, for my nephew's bar mitzvah about 5 years ago. And it was so nice to go through the Jewish areas and tell him about it, and then go through the Christian Catholic areas. And he was like, oh my God, Michelle, this is where Jesus is, and this is where Jesus is that. And like, I would have never bothered or known or really taken the time. So I think, again, being older and wiser and knowing what do I need for me to make me happy, to support me, to help me achieve what I want to achieve, to help, to put a smile on my face when I wake up in the morning. And I'm very lucky that I met Jason, because we make an incredible team. So we've had a son together, Zane, who is the glue of the family. Because let me tell you, it wasn't all roses. So the girls were not very welcoming or accepting of the new person in Mum's life. I couldn't move him in for many years. It all happened very slow. And then I remember I fell pregnant, and it was my daughter's 12th, was it her 11th birthday, must have been, or 10th or 11th birthday. And I took the girls to Ribs and Burgers in East Gardens, because the Bondi one had closed down, and my Charlie loves Ribs and Burgers. So we went there, and stupidly, clearly I wasn't in my 40s yet, I thought I would tell her on her birthday that she was going to have a new baby brother. Well, let me tell you, that did not go down well. So luckily they finished eating their food. And I said, oh, girls, I've got something really exciting to tell you. I'm pregnant, and you're going to have a little baby brother. Oh, my God. They burst out crying. How could you do this? My now 19-year-old, almost 19-year-old Jessica, she's obsessed with her brother, like loves him more than anyone in the world, calls him every day, FaceTime because she's living in Canberra now, and
Yeah.
calls him and just loves him. But anyway, at the time she was like, I have to change schools because it's so embarrassing. You're too old. How could you do this to me? I can never show my face. Anyway, my friends all were like, how did it go? How did it go? Are they excited? I'm like, I remember texting them back, the worst night of my life.
What a surprise, though, that teenagers made it all about them. Like, I have to say,
I'm still,
I have to say,
I
like,
have never
how
learned.
developmentally appropriate.
So, given I was the teenager from hell, you really would think that I would know better. But I'm in denial of teenagers and what they are about. And I don't know. I'm waiting for them to just get past that stage and move on. But
already.
that was a disaster. So I remember a few people said to me, don't worry, this baby, he'll be the glue and he will bring the whole family together. And they were so right. So, Jason moved in a few months before Zane was born. So, just to give you a bit of a glimpse, the first few years, Jessica wouldn't come out of her room if he was in our apartment. She wouldn't sit at the dinner table with him. She'd wait till he left. It was just horrendous. And everyone said, just hang in there. It will get better.
Yeah.
And they are like really close now. And I mean, he's practically helped raise these girls over the last 7 years. He's gone and got them takeaway when they wanted it, gone and picked them up at midnight from parties, dropped them at parties, cooked them special food requests. He's just incredible. He's put them first, and they've lived with us probably 80-90% of the time on average. So he really has helped raise them. And I think the difference with Jason is, unlike saying things like, I wouldn't ask for a pay rise because you should just be lucky you've got a job. I hear things like, why can't you have your boss's job? What's stopping you? What are the roadblocks? Let's talk about it. Why are you doubting yourself? And so through that encouragement, I left Macquarie because, again, a lot of people just don't change jobs because they don't have confidence in themselves that they will thrive outside their safety net of where they've been forever and where they know how everything operates. So I took that huge plunge. And again, I remember saying to my dad, I'm going to resign. I'm going to get another job. Oh my God, are you crazy? You've got security. You know how that place runs. He's a shareholder. He's really obsessed with Macquarie Bank. And I was like, Dad, it's fine. I'll be okay. I'll be good. I'm good at my job. No, but blah, blah. Anyway, again, always not telling me how great I am. So it's great. Lucky that I found someone
though. And so can I say so typical of first immigrant parents. Do you know what I mean? Because the fear of they just want you to be successful. It comes from a place of love and just wanting you to, just so much fear you're going to fail and stuff, and just wanting the most for you. But it comes across. Situation. Oh, Jesus Christus, would you stop it? But I think I see that a lot. I've got a lot of friends who are, children of first immigrants, and their parents are all the same. Just hammer
and just
home.
Not changing the status quo, for fear
that
of
it comes from love and fear. I can see that.
So that was a big,
good.
That was a big turn. That was a huge step. 13 years at one place, and obviously the security that came with that. So taking the plunge, I left, and that was the best thing I ever did because I've had great success in my career since then. So after Macquarie Bank, I left and went to a startup by Andrew Roberts, who's the ex-Multiplex family, and that didn't end up going anywhere after about a year. But in that time, it was great because I missed a really other important thing. So Jason and I had been trying for about 6 to 12 months to have a baby, and they were like, oh, there's fertility issues. And I was like, well, they're not my issues because I got 2 kids already. So they ain't my issues. So, he went off and, oh, there's issues and he's got to stop drinking coffee and quit the cigs and stop the alcohol. And anyway, he did all that for about a week. But I think that stress of being at Macquarie and really feeling trapped in this job, and I tried to find another role for about 3 months, and it all kind of didn't go anywhere. And then finally this opportunity came, and it was more money and better title and a really good opportunity. And I grabbed it. And the funny thing is, after about a year of trying, I actually conceived Zane on the night that I resigned from Macquarie Bank. So we worked
Wow.
out it was about a 48-hour window of when I felt pregnant, but it was in those 2 days after I resigned. I think the world was lifted off my shoulders
Yeah, the
because I
stress was
really
gone.
I finally got the courage to leave, and then I couldn't find something for a few months, and I felt so burdened, and then I felt amazing. So
You followed
on
your
my
own voice.
oh
And you had
I
someone to support you, which is so beautiful.
100%. The sabotage voice wasn't the loudest for a change.
Yeah.
So at my 4-week departure mark, where I got up in front of 100 people to do the speech, the farewell speech, I found out that sort of day before that I was pregnant. So I was completely freaked out because now I'm leaving this secure job where I would get 3 months maternity leave. I'm now pregnant. I can't believe it. After a year of trying, didn't think I was going to get pregnant, got pregnant. Now I'm giving this departure speech where I think I don't even know what I said. All
Did you
I
have
was
morning
thinking was,
sickness as well
I
to
was
top it off?
always,
Yeah.
always,
Just
always
like,
nausea, eating 20 bananas a day and 100
oh my
crackers to
God.
stay. So I thought, in the back of my mind, it was like, no, don't let me go. I can't leave. I'm pregnant. But, thank God I kept moving. Sometimes you just got to keep moving forward, even though it feels like a few steps back and only one little step
Trust
forward.
your
You've just,
intuition.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there I was, off I went, and then feeling sick with myself, starting a new job, and then I think, why do women have so much pressure on themselves always? Guilty for being pregnant, guilty for changing jobs, guilty for starting a new job pregnant. Like, who cares? But anyway, George, who was my boss and CEO at this at the company, which is called RF Capital, I remember I waited till I had the 12-week test and everything was fine. And I went into his office. I'm like, I'm really sorry. I've got to tell you something. And he's like, oh God. I said,
You've
I'm
got
pregnant.
cancer.
I'm so sorry. And I thought this is another little turning point for me. He said, mate, that's fantastic news. Having children, life, that's the best thing in life. And he said, why didn't you tell me earlier? I said, I've been sick with stress and worry to tell you because, who starts a new job pregnant? It's not my style. And he said, all I can say is, I'm so sorry you didn't tell me earlier and that you've had weeks of
Aw,
unnecessary stress. And,
what a
those
winner.
little conversations really help you go, why do I do that to myself? Why do we
Yeah.
do this? Why do we doubt ourselves and put others before us always?
I don't
It's
have
an
an answer for that
interesting.
one, but I know it happens real young. It just stays in there for so long.
Yeah,
And
it's like everyone
influences
before me.
so many of our decisions, like our thinking, our feelings, our behavior. Like it just and it's our thinking. Like, God, I've been carrying stuff around since I was a kid. That wasn't even
Mm.
aware was there.
It's
God,
complicated.
thank God for therapy.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
know
Oh
where I
my
would
God.
be without my therapist. I
Oh,
have
it's the
3.
best.
I
Oh
don't know.
my God. I
I just
might need to check in with one of my old therapists for after going through all of my recapping of the last 27 years. But
yeah, I've
let's
got a
see.
counselor, I've got a psychologist, and I've got a psychiatrist. And I'm not on meds, but I go just to help me with all this thinking that just it comes up and just this thinking has been there for so long. And every time I mess up or don't do something perfect or don't appear perfect, up it comes, you're worthless. Where's that come from? Childhood. I don't know how to get rid of it. I'm on my way, but at least I know where it started.
And I think, going to a place like Sydney High probably didn't help the demands of, the competitiveness, being amongst overachievers, high achievers, where the being average was, well, felt below average, and you never felt good enough. And that's those important years in our life, right? Those teenage years.
And I think
And
for me, it was like primary school, like earlier than that. Like it was primary school was horrible for me. I had a horrible primary school experience, and it was my year 6 teacher I was always in trouble. I was always up the back of the room, separated from everybody else. Like I was just and I remember I was a year younger, and I used to want to play with kids who were a year younger. So they made a rule in my school: you can't play with kids who aren't in your own year. Things like that, like just like vindictive stuff, and just like Sydney girls in a way. I kind of felt relieved because I wasn't always in trouble. Like, you know what I mean? And I just like for once I was, like not the biggest troublemaker, I'd get in trouble sometimes. And Miss Shackley was so helpful to me, like, because she would just call me into her office and just like say stuff like, I used to sell drugs, like not drugs. I used to sell calcium tablets, right? And like to try to make money. And she called me into her office one day and she goes, have you been selling drugs in my school? And I said, no, I've been selling pills, but they're actually calcium tablets. She's like, get out of my office.
How long did we have her? Only a year or
Not
two,
like
right?
only the first half. And then we got Verity.
She was intense.
And she was very intense. And she wasn't so helpful to me, but I've spoken to some people who she really helped, like, save some people's lives.
Wow.
That's in some of the podcasts. And
wow. Yeah, I don't remember even I can't even remember a conversation with her.
And I don't remember
unfortunately,
if you ever had for English, Bobby Gledhill.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Oh, she was just so amazing.
With the long hair, right?
And the no bra and the cheap cloth tops, and she would wear shoes. And to me, she was just like
amazing.
Where did you come from? But like it turns out she was an actress in the 60s, and she used to write books, and she was just like. And I remember when you would like give her an opinion, like that was, she wouldn't tell you were wrong. She would say like, why do you think that? And what makes you say that? And like when I was in primary school, it was always like, you're wrong, get out of the classroom, go see the principal, and stuff. So
we had some amazing teachers.
Yeah, because I think as a teacher, it would be a privilege to work at Sydney Girls, like.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
If I was a teacher today, like that's where I'd want to work,
What's the I can't go without sharing the most proud moments, but what was the Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes, and his coffee cup that he never washed.
Do you remember that I stole his car many occasions and drove to
I didn't know that.
No one's brought it up. Or...
Oh no, Mr. McLaughlin, he was Maths. The guy who had
head of Maths.
He had like the little demountable,
he had the little
like
Toyota
in the hallway. Yeah.
Lexus. He had the brand new Lexus. So I mean, I actually, when I tell my daughters, they just cannot even believe that this could have happened. So we took the keys from, it was like maybe like, I don't remember who was in the car. But I was like one of the first to have my license, and I don't know, I was easily influenced. Everyone probably went, you do it. And I went, yeah, because I'm an idiot and I'll be the one expelled. So we took his keys out of his jacket pocket and then got in his car, drove down Anzac Parade, he had like hundreds of dollars in his glove box. So we not just used his car, we took his money, and then we would call him from like a mobile. I don't know, we must have just started getting them. And we would like say, hi, Macca. And he'd be like, where are you? We're like, we're actually in your car. And he'd be like, no, you're not. And we're like, we are, sir. We suggest you look out the window. And he'd look out. He'd be like, you bring my new car. Can you imagine a brand new Toyota Lexus? Like that's like someone getting a Ferrari or Porsche.
The police and
totally. And we were like, no, but Macca, don't get like Mr. McLaughlin, please don't get upset. We just want to know if you would like anything from the drive-through because we're going through.
I want my car back.
So we came back with like bags of Maccas for everyone.
Oh,
and he got to the stage where he was like locking up his keys in
Yeah.
a locker and
Much
like
safer
4 locks
place.
because we kept doing it. But whenever my dad brings up the story and he's seen Mr. McLaughlin at Liberal functions and like they've talked about it and had a laugh about it. But my
So
kids just say,
sorry.
Mum, seriously, how did you get away with that? I said, like now my kids would have had like been in jail, like now in a private
Yeah.
school or any,
Yeah.
you'd be expelled and like arrested
Yeah.
for like theft and
Absolutely.
assault and attempted murder.
And like I don't think I've told my son, my 19-year-old, like all the things I've done. But when I look at him sometimes and if he's behaving badly in any way, shape, or form, I have an immediate memory of myself at 19 and go, You're a good kid. Like you're
Oh,
a
yeah,
damn good kid.
oh my
Like I'm
God.
always telling him what a
How
good kid he
is it?
is.
Yeah, God, my kids are so goody, and like compliant and law abiding, and I just go like, where did you come from? Like, I couldn't have been more opposite. But I'm not complaining, because I think it's great.
Yeah.
But you always think, yeah, with the technology and stuff,
I
like you
compare
think
and
they'd be
just
off the rails, but we didn't.
no.
We didn't have those distractions, so we did more naughty stuff with,
Yeah. I
you
think,
know.
I don't know.
Do you remember the I don't know if it was after you left, but we used to do fake bomb scares to the school when we had
Oh my
exams, and we had
gosh.
to and then I think Sasha did it, and then they said everyone get down to the low, what was it called, the lower grounds, or what are
Like where
they
the
called,
bear pit
the
was and
bear
all
pit,
that.
or
Yeah.
whatever. Do you
Yeah.
remember the big banana tree in the middle? It was like a
Yes.
banana bush. Oh my God.
But
And
people used
then
to steal the leaves and roll joints. Do you remember that? And banana
oh, no,
flavored joints.
I don't remember that, but, that doesn't sound not like, yeah, that would have
Yeah.
definitely happened. Anyway, so we were all down there, and then then someone called the school and was like, "The bomb's in the banana bush." Teachers
I think
started,
I remember that. I
"Move
think I do remember
away,
that. I think that was
girls,
94.
get away from the banana bush." The bomb. Oh my God. I mean, oh my God. Anyway,
Just
so
crazy,
I've
isn't
got
it?
my wonderful soulmate, and anyway, I went to this company, and what was great is, they were very generous and gave me paid maternity leave, which was great. And then I had 3 months with my son, and then I came back for a few months, and then they shut down the hedge fund business. Everyone got made redundant, and it was really lucky that I had a 12-week notice period in my contract, which I was trying to negotiate out, but worked in my favor that I didn't. So I
Yeah.
got 12 weeks pay, and I actually got to spend, 6 or 8 months paid with my son in his first year, which is great. And then he's like a COVID baby almost. So I've dropped him at daycare and picked him up every day since he's gone. He doesn't know any different, which for my girls,
Yeah.
I never got home before 7 or 8 p.m. So never spoke to them about how was kindy, and it's amazing to see the difference. Working from home now, and being able
Yeah.
to, such is amazing to be able to walk him every day to kindy and pick him up. So off I went and got a job at one of Australia's largest companies and banks, Commonwealth Bank. And that was a weird and wonderful place, or probably more weird than anything. But I think I was like shell shocked from the minute I walked in there around how many people they had just doing. I couldn't quite work out what everyone was doing and how everyone fit in. And I think sometimes you got to go with your gut, and it's just not the right place and not the right culture. And it just, the anxiety levels were going through the roof, and to the point where I couldn't hear people talking to me. I couldn't see, I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, I had dry
Yeah.
mouth, I couldn't sleep. Everything was, I was going down a bad path that I hadn't been down for a long time. So it was very scary, and just thank God I left and got a
Yeah.
job at Rabobank, where I am now, and I feel really grateful. I've got a great role, a great team, an incredible boss. She's smart, inspiring, motivating. I'm learning great things. I've been re-educated on like authentic leadership and culture and all these great stuff that I wouldn't have probably understood it 10 years ago, but it's a
Yeah.
good time to be learning all that. But really inspired to go and do an MBA or
I just
something with.
finished that.
Oh, well done. That is very
And I got
good.
in
That's a
Golden
big
Key Club,
achievement.
which,
What?
isn't really surprising. Is at Sydney Girls High, we were already top 10%. So
Oh,
top
well
15, I'm kind
done.
of like, hey, I'm top 10.
How long did that take you to complete?
To complete it, it's only supposed to be 18 months, but because of like COVID and all the stuff, it took me 3 years.
Yeah, but that's full time. Is it full time?
It wasn't always full time. Yeah, like
Oh,
some
yeah, no.
trimesters, I just had to drop all units with
Yeah,
COVID
yeah,
because I had my kid home. I was
yeah,
homeschooling. And
yeah.
I'm on my own. Like, I'm a single mum, so I just whatever. But I got through it, and it wasn't actually the hardest thing I'd done, because I'd done biochemistry and physics and all that in
Oh,
my
wow.
undergrad. And I chose that because this is my thinking at 29 when I finally I did music when I first left school, but you have no natural ability to do this. You've never studied science, so I will give you some respect if you can get those degrees. Whereas if you do something that you're naturally inclined to be able to do, I won't give you any respect. Like, that was my thinking at 29, which is so messed up. Like, unbelievable. And now I'm a maths and science tutor. But the
Oh,
good thing
wow.
about that is like that I can help kids who are struggling in maths and science in high school who think they're a loser and they can't do it. And would you believe science teachers tell that to them? You're not
Oh.
smart enough to do science. No one's born knowing this stuff. I learned it the hard way. Anyone can learn it is the way I'd teach it to them. And like, I have this one student who wanted to be a marine biologist, and her science teacher was saying, you can't do it, you're not good enough. And her father was like in tears, like, and he like trying to find a tutor for her. And he rang me and he was like, someone please help. And now she's got early entry, 2 unis for marine
Wow.
biology, and they're the beautiful parts of my job. The bad part is it's not that much money. But good part is it's I get to give back to people that, yeah.
I did tutoring when I was at university, and it was probably one of the most rewarding jobs. I
Be able to give
tutored
people
kids getting into
confidence.
selective schools, kids that were average who were suddenly at the top, who were learned to love learning and
Feel good about themselves and have confidence in themselves, and we know how much that means to us. Like, it's great to be able to give that to a 17, 18-year-old, because I didn't have that then. So,
and my eldest daughter now is tutoring, and I just love it. Like, I love that. And I've heard her a few times doing her lessons over the computer, because she does them remote, and I just feel like my heart melts. Like, she's so committed. She goes over the time if need be. She like checks there, she follows up, and I love that about her. She's in, she's fully in, she's committed.
You form these relationships with these kids, and they tell you like their mental health stuff, and they tell you what they're going through socially, and you're able to have this. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So
that's kind of, I've got really grateful, got this great job, really happy. My partner Jason and I have been fortunate enough to open a hotel together. So that was another crazy thing, because I've never owned my own business, and I used to always be jealous, not in a bad way, but just be, how cool would it be to run a business? Like, I'd love to be my own boss.
I've been my own boss since I was 22.
Yeah, it's awesome, I reckon.
I'm not a very good employee.
That's
and
okay.
Learned when I worked for Amex, they wanted me to say, they changed it to 24 hours, and they didn't hire any more staff. So idiots. So suddenly the call, blowout, 1 hour, 2 hour, people are on the phone, and then we're supposed to say to them, because we just got through to you now, look at the way I hold the phone, so old. That means you are responsible for all the charges on your card until I spoke to you. And sometimes they said they debit cards which were payable at the end of the month, and there'd be big purchases, and I just can't say that, can't do it. So learned very young, I cannot work for other companies, because if it conflicts with my ethics, I ain't doing it. So
well, that's an important.
That was just my journey. And so I've been broke a lot.
Well, it's got its ups and its downs.
And making, the fear of like trying to make your own businesses and the starting it from scratch, and that one. And I have about 5 different businesses. Like they each make a little bit, and then I put that together and that's an income, rather than having one job. And insecurity.
But
and
that's probably works for you as well, though. Like being
Yeah.
able to have different things that
And
keep you
I can
interested.
shuffle everything around, and
Yeah.
I can put my kids first if I need to, and I can cancel, and I can reschedule, and I can. So for me, that works.
The flexibility is important.
Look, is there anything you would like to add?
No, I think just I think it's been a great journey. There's been many lows. I've learned so many things. I think in my 30s, just about what do I need for me to be happy. And so I pinch myself some mornings. I've got 3 beautiful children. I'm really proud of how they're turning out and who they are, and the mother that I've been able to be for them, and hope to continue to be, just being really open. And that Jason just laughs, like Jessica will say, "Oh, mum, people got stoned," and I'll be like, "Oh, well, did you? No, why not?" Whereas like,
I
and
try
he's
not to
like,
ask that question. I
"Michelle,
hold it in.
Michelle," but I'm like the opposite. My parents were in complete denial that teenagers did anything illegal, and I'm like on the front foot. I am like so ahead of them. I'm like, they think they're smarter than me. I'm already smarter than them. And so as a result, like, my kids are really good and they're not doing crazy shit, which I did, and I'm really proud. But I found this great person who makes me smile from the minute I wake up, with love messages and affection and encouragement, and just makes me feel happy about who I am.
Beautiful.
And I've learned to manage my parents, the craziness, and understand that's just them, and I'm not going to let that be the demise of me. I can't change them. I'm just going to, that's who they are. And they're like children now. I have to discipline them and tell them just to be quiet all the time. And I've got my 2 dogs that I want lots of dogs, but I got 2, and everyone goes, "You're crazy. You've got 3 kids and a full-time job." And I'm like, I love being busy. I love having lots on my plate. I'm not one to lie on the couch and watch TV for hours. I love to read. I love to just go for walks, play with my dogs.
By the way, haven't interviewed one person who's like that. So I think maybe they selected for that when they did the test. It was people who need to do things and get stuff done.
So I think it's great. And again, just thank you for making this a priority for all of us, because I am so excited. I am going to be glued to every podcast, and
I think it's going to be valuable.
I can't wait to hear what people have done, and I think there'll be great interest in our stories and the different paths people have taken, and why they have, and where are they now. And it wouldn't happen without you, and you've got so much stuff going on in your life, and you've made it happen, and you've kept it going and kept it going. So on behalf of everyone, thank you. I'm so grateful.
Thanks so much, Michelle. That was heaps of fun recording. I hope everyone enjoys the episode as much as I enjoyed recording it.